All right. Hello, everybody. This is Todd from the Table Ready podcast. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to get into you've played Space Marine 2, and now you want to get into the tabletop game. So, what I want to do is get into the basics of what's the best way to get into the tabletop game now that you played Space Marine 2. And what I really wanted to get into specifically was the um, the benefits and what you need to do to start doing models and getting actually onto the tabletop game. So what I'm going to do, or what I think we should do, is what is Space Marine at this point? Space Marine is Space Marine 2 is the follow-up for the original Space Marine game. You open up with a guy in huge power armor, and he's going to start kicking orcs. In the second one, of course, you're going against the Tyranids, and you start fighting the different types of Tyranids, obviously starting with your basic Tyranids and then getting into more specific type of Tyranids and what goes on with that. So what I wanted to do was, let's start with the basics. Okay. What's the easiest, fastest, most reasonable way to get into the Space Marine game, the tabletop game? So I went through a couple different options, and of course they do have a lot of different options for getting into the game. They do have an introductory level, they have a starter set, and then of course they move up to the ultimate set. So introductory is literally just that. It's an introductory kit. It's going to get you into the basics of your how to put the models together, how to paint the models, how to get into the specifics with that. The next thing to do is, which one are we going to start with here? So, like I said, the introductory kit is just a basic. You're starting just a few models, trying to get into the specifics. It does give you a couple Space Marines, as you can see here. And then this is an Infernus Marine. Sorry, he's kind of already prime black, so he's kind of hard to see, but he does have a basically flamethrower bolter. And then you do get a captain miniature, and then you get some Tyranids to fight against them. What I would do is, that is a very introductory set, and I forgot to write the price down for that, but it's not very much. But if you just want to test the game out, it does give you a couple models, but it doesn't really give you the real feel of the whole thing. So the next thing that I wanted what the next thing is to move up to, and to be honest with you, what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the ultimate starter set, because I think that is the best way to go about this. And I think the best thing to do at this point would be to go into what's actually in the starter kit. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get my flow here. So what I really want, so this ultimate starter set at this point is $210 American. Okay. And for a board game, that is an incredibly a very high price to follow just for a game just to start out with. What you can do is, or I should say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down. So if you were going to buy the Ultimate Starter Kit will give you, it does give you a full Space Marine army to start out with, the full combat patrol. It also does give you the a full Tyranid army to start out with. So that, I think, not only does it do that, but it does give you a table to play on. It gives you the dice. It gives you the rule book. It gives you terrain to start out with, which I think is, it really is the best way to kind of jump into this. So let's start breaking down what comes in the box set. So you got $210. Okay, that's a lot for a board game. Understandable. What I'm going to do is just start with the Space Marine stuff. And with the Space Marine items as it is, with the Ultimate Starter Kit, you do get a captain. That's this guy here. You do get the librarian. Again, I haven't painted them yet, so they are just prime black. You get 5 Terminators. These are your heavy assault troops. And there's 5 of them, including one with a heavy weapon. He does have a heavy weapon. And then your sergeant, I have him here. He does have a sword and a storm bolter. So, a power sword. And then you get, they do come with a teleport homer, which is just an item to mark where they're at. And then you get 5 of the Infernus Marines. Like I showed earlier, they do have pyroblasters. So that's that for the Space Marines. Now, so what I did do is I broke this down. So your Terminator captain, if you bought him separately, that's the guy with the power sword, the storm bolter, and the Terminator armor with the cool cape. He is base price from Games Workshop or from Warhammer. He is $44. If you bought the librarian separately, which is the guy with the axe, he's got a storm bolter as well. His is on the arm. He is $40. The Terminators, the 5-man Terminator squad, is $65 separately. And then the Infernus Marines, you only get 5 of them in the Ultimate Starter box. And they are $60 for 10 of them, but you only get 5. So we'll say $30 for those. So if you were going to buy those separately, individually, it's $179. Realistically, you have to buy 10 of the Infernus Marines. So that's $209. Right there, before you do anything else, you are already at $209 out of $210. So, excuse me. So, what I wanted to do, I wanted to say hi to Jeff here, who's following me. Not a big Halo fan, but have played a couple of them. And I appreciate you hanging out. So I do. So where I was at was $209 for just that. Now you can buy just those items in the Combat Patrol box, and that's about $168. But, and I'm going to get into the other stuff that you'll get within the box set. $168 compared to the rest of the stuff in your Ultimate box is better. It's a whole lot better of a price. All right, so $209 for those Space Marines. Now, if you want to add in the wing Tyranid, the Tyranid models, again, you can buy everything that comes in this Ultimate Starter box is in the Combat Patrol, and that is a wing Tyranid Prime, and I don't have the models here. Actually, my son painted and plays with the models. So he has them in a multitude of painted levels. So you do get the wing Tyranid Prime, which is the leader of the group. He is $42. The Psychophage, which is a huge spider-like creature with some kind of steam vents coming out of their back, that's a $60 model. He is about that big of a base, so he's a pretty big model. And then he's about $60. And then you get 3 Von Ryan Leapers, which are when you've played the game, I think there's the Lictor in the game. These are basically a smaller variety of those, and they are there's 3 of them, and they are $52 for the 3. All right, so after that you have 5 Barbagons, and I'm not sure that they're actually in the game. I haven't gotten through the entire game yet, but I haven't seen them show up in the game. Barbagons are basically, they're kind of like the Termagants, but they actually have large, heavy weapons on their back. They're not stupendous in the game, but they are a new miniature for this edition. So you get 5 of the Barbagons. They are $45, and then you get 20 Termagants and the 2 Ripper Swarms that come with it. The Termagants with the Ripper Swarms, they are $45 each. That makes them $95 for the 20. So if you add all that up together, congratulations. If you want to play Tyranids, this is your big win for the box set, because this is $289 worth of miniatures, when you buy the Ultimate Starter box, or if you buy the Tyranid Combat Patrol, which is $168. Either which way, the Tyranids on this edition are a big win in that box. Now, the other things that you do get in the box are 2 range rulers. They're rulers. That's all they are. They're in inches. Typical Warhammer player will have tape measures and stuff like that, or measuring sticks, or they do have engagement rulers at this point. Tons of different things that you can work with. There's also 10 6-sided dice. So if you want to pop these models together and start playing, you already have dice. There's 2 double-sided game boards, so when you put them together, they make a full board for you to play on. And then, of course, it's printed on one side, one pattern. Flip it over, there's printed the other side. Currently, you can't buy them separately. You can only get them in the different box sets. So let's say they're $30, because I don't really have a price range for them. You do get a soft cover rule book. So typically, when you go out and buy the rule book, it's got a ton of pages of lore and descriptions for the different armies throughout the entire game, and stuff like that. So I haven't actually got my hands on one of these soft cover rule books, but I know in earlier editions of 40K, the smaller books were definitely the ones that you were looking for. They're a lot easier to carry around. They're lighter in the backpack. It's a lot easier to find where your rules are when you're only dealing with, a 72-page book instead of, I think the rule book currently is like 300 and some pages, which is kind of ridiculous. And the last thing that you really get in here, so if you were to buy the actual rule book, that's an extra $65. And then the last thing that you do get is some scenery. You get a bunker and stockades. When you look up this set on Games Workshop site, that is about $89. Again, we ended up buying the Leviathan box when it really comes down to it, which did come with a lot more models. You got in that, if you can still get the Leviathan box, it's more like $300. I'm not sure if it's even available, or if it is available, if you can actually find it somewhere. So not a big deal. I'm not even going to leave that one because that was the starter box about a year ago. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure you can still get it. But so that's everything that's in the actual Ultimate Starter box. So like I said, $200, and I'm going to add this up real quick because I forgot to do that. Let me throw the calculator in here. So we got $209 for the Space Marines, $12.50 for, whoops, clear that out. 209 plus 12.50 plus, I'm good at calculators. 12.50 plus 65 for the rule book plus $89 for the scenery plus $289. So your grand total, if you bought all the stuff from the Ultimate Starter box individually at list price, and of course I didn't add the boards in there because the only way you can really get the boards, but if you bought, let's say, a gaming mat through Frontline Gaming or Game Mats or whoever you really want to buy a mat from. I mean, I got smaller mats that are about 18 inches by 30 inches. They're not going to be quite the right size, but these were about $30 a piece. So you're probably looking, depending on your size of your battle, you're probably looking at, let's say $45, $50. So with that, that's a grand total of over $700 worth of stuff that's in this Ultimate Starter box. And the nice thing is, the only thing that you actually need at that point to start playing would be clippers to clip these out. Whether you use an X-Acto blade straight on the sprues, all these models are push fit, so you don't technically need glue. We tend to glue all our stuff together anyways, just because I don't want the stuff to fall apart. But other than that, that's all you really need. So yeah, $664 without the game board. Probably about $700 with the game board, and it's a $210 box. You're still saying, okay, $210, that's a lot for a board game. And I would agree. I don't know that I would necessarily buy a simple board game for $200. But once you move past your playing your combat patrol games, and you move on to bigger games, all these models are still useful for this game system. You will never not need a captain for your Space Marine. You will never not need troops to do your fighting. You may not want Infernus Marines to be your fighters, but you could do it to all Terminator Army. And I'm just using the Space Marines because they're sitting here. A Librarian in Terminator armor is an amazing model. And, if you get further into the game, the one thing that I wish one of these games had, of course, was Titus. But I am going to tell you, there's a box set out there. There's a Space Marine board game. If you really want to just touch on the board game, you can actually just get into just the board game. It is about $40. It does have Lieutenant Titus in it and a game board, and it also has 20 gaunts, I think it is. I think it's 20 gaunts in it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But, that is a super cheap way if you want to get into it. If you want to get into the game, just to get a taste of the game. And that's probably the cheapest way to find it. If you go, let's see if I can get some details here. What you get in it, what you get in the box. It does look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, it looks like 20 gaunts, and then you get the 2 Ripper Swarms. So just like the box set, that's what you get. So if you really, really just want the taste of Space Marine without getting overwhelmed with some of this, with a bigger box set, a more expensive box set, that is a way to go. The step down from the Ultimate Starter box, of course, there is a starter set, which is the same models. It's almost the same models. It's the Captain in Terminator armor. It's the Terminators. It's the 5 Inferno Squad. So you do lose the Librarian and Terminator armor. And then on the Tyranid side, the only thing you lose is the barb gaunts. And that's actually, but you don't get any of the scenery. You don't get the range rulers. You do get the rule book, and I think you only get 1 game board. So, but that's only $112. It's still a heck of a deal. You're still talking $664, and you're going to take off almost $180. So you're only getting maybe $400 worth of stuff out of a $100 box, which is not bad, but it's not great. But so my recommendation would be the Ultimate Starter box. Like I said, you'll definitely move forward. You'll definitely get more of the stuff that you really want to work with. Of course, the one thing that is missing in this whole thing is there is no paints. But the only one that comes with paints is the introductory set, which you only get I think 10 gaunts and the 5 Infernus Marines. which is, it's not enough to really play the game. So, and the next thing that I did want to mention was, once you have, with the ultimate starter kit over the regular starter kit, what you do get is a full combat patrol. So, and for anybody that hasn't played on the table yet, the full combat patrol is really the basic way to get into 40K. Because you can buy any army that you want, any army that you feel that you want to play with, anything that you feel that looks like the right touch for you, whether it's Drukhari, or you want to play Dark Angels, or you want to play Necrons, or you want to play, Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas, Chaos Space Marines. If you pick up a Combat Patrol box, which they're all at that $168 mark, almost all of them are maybe $10 to $20 cheaper than the models are separately. That is a good way to get in the game as well. So like in Space Marine 2, you have the Cadians that you deal with on a lot of different occasions. You can actually play them as your army instead of Space Marines. And they do have an interesting starter box. They do have what's like the alien load lifters with big heavy weapons. The ones that are in the things, they're called Sentinels. You'd get one of those in the box. You also get some field artillery and a bunch of infantry, Cadian infantry guys. The other thing that, let's see. So there's a Thousand Suns box, which, if you played any amount of Space Marine 2, you realize that there's Thousand Suns involved. There's a box set for them. That's not really one of my favorite box sets, and I'm a big Thousand Suns player. I don't really care for that box set specifically because it doesn't have Rubric Marines in it, which you would think would be the basis of what you're trying to play. But I mean, what are you gonna do? I didn't design the boxes. I just picked the games that I want to play. And I picked Thousand Suns as one of my armies because I like the lore behind them. I like the color scheme is kind of a pain to paint, but I've worked it out so that it works nice. I do have, so like I painted my Mauler Fiend, and this is a little bit of a conversion. I put a different head on it. This is the Mauler Fiend that I did for Thousand Suns, and the blue and the brass, to get all the etching, and this is in any of the Space Marines, to get all that etching in place and all that metallic and the metal, the paint color with the metallics. It's a lot of work. I used one of the creatures that they have for Thousand Suns is a Mauler Fiend. They do have the Mauler Fiend is this guy, sorry. The Mauler Fiend is this guy, and he comes with a long neck and a small head, and I didn't think it looked appropriate on the model, so I changed that with this. One of the creatures that they do use and is very popular is the Mutilith Vortex Beast, which actually just has tentacles and things coming out, and that's over there. I'm not going to grab it right now, but that comes with, it can be built in a different couple different stances, and two of them have heads, but the Mutilith has just tentacles coming out. So I use that one for the Mauler Fiend, and then if I ever get another one for a Forge Fiend, I'm actually going to use the other head for the Forge Fiend and It has a gun coming out of the mouth, but I think I'm going to work that just slightly different so that the gun's actually coming out of that neck brace next to the head, because the head's a little smaller. But it's definitely more Thousand Suns looking. So, but you can get into any of the starter boxes. That's just an incredible way of getting the whole thing going, getting everything to work out. So, again, if you want to go from Space Marine 2 onto the table, your best bet, your most cost effective, I would, more than anything in the world, try to get a friend to get into it too. Because if you can get a friend to split an ultimate starter box, it's $105 plus your tax, and that's American dollars. That will get you into playing the game, and you've maybe got 2 hours of putting together and reading the rule books and everything else till you could be playing. And that is just an incredible way to walk onto the table. You will have all the rules, you'll have all the scenery, not all the scenery, but you'll have enough scenery to play. You'll have a game board to play on. Everything comes in that box and that rule book to glue your pieces together, or just push fit them together if you just want to push fit them. And then, yeah, that's about it. I mean, if that's the best way to get going. If you want to be a little bit cheaper, you can buy the starter set. The biggest problem is you'll have no scenery. By all means, grab some books, grab some soda cans, borrow stuff from some other game that you might play that's got miniatures. When we started playing, we actually just used a tablecloth and put books under the tablecloth and had the green cloth go over so it looked like rolling hills. We also had train buildings and stuff like that, and that worked well. So whatever you can use when you're getting started, you can just jump right in and get everything, get the models on the table and start rolling dice. I mean, the game's a lot of fun. It's incredibly addicting. I've been playing for close to 30 years. I hate to say it, but like I've said before, and I'll say it again. Like, if my cousin wouldn't have loaned me money to buy my first army, I probably would have never started playing. Shout out to him, because he's got me stuck in this hobby for most of my entire life. Certainly more than half my life at this point. And, I mean, if Space Marine grabs you just enough to get models on the table, it's not really that much of an investment. I mean, you can buy a model tank just like a regular model tank, and they're $45-$50. The tanks for Warhammer, they start at about $40-$45, and you can use them multiple times, and they're ton sturdier. They're a ton sturdier than the model kits for airplanes and stuff like that. So, I mean, anything you can do to get these models on the table is a plus. Anything that you can have an excuse to get together with your friends, and whether you're drinking adult beverages and eating pizzas, or if you're you got your juice boxes and cereal snacks. I mean, obviously it's not like a kid's game, but there's so many levels to the way you can play this game, from just let's see who can knock each other's models down, to these missions that they have out for 10th edition that are intricate and involved, and everybody just kind of you got to keep moving ground and moving your models and taking the better of your opponent, getting the better of your opponent. I mean, every time you can play this game, you can play it in a different way. And, there's 24 different factions in this game. So even if you were just introduced to Space Marine, which is, the Space Marine, the Ultramarine specifically, but the Space Marines, I mean, most of the Space Marine chapters work exactly the same. Most of them have all the core units are exactly the same. So I know in Space Marine 2, you can play as your Imperial Fists. You can play as Ultramarines. You can play as Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Raven Guard. And then when you get into PvE or PvP, excuse me, they have the Iron Hands and they have the Black Legion and World Eaters and Emperor's Children and Death Guard. And, those are the Chaos Space Marines. So, I mean, there's an infinite number of things armies to play. And there's tons that aren't even in the game that are completely different. And, I don't even know how to explain. I mean, Gene Stealer cults pop up on the board and they keep getting reinforcements of the same troops. Tyranids can do that as well. They have the endless swarms. You can play just monsters for Tyranids. There's mechanical robots that when you shoot them down and they stand back up. I mean, this place is, this game is amazing and involved, and there's still factions that they're working on. I mean, all the little red robe guys in Space Marine 2, they're their own army. The Adeptus Mechanicus are their own army. So you can play an army of just those guys, and they take the idea of the flesh is weak and take it to a whole nother level where they're replacing body parts, not just, bionic eyes and bionic arms. Like, some of those guys are just metal tentacles or metal leggings or whatever with just a robe on top. So, I mean, there's tons of armies in this game, and you can honestly pick up any of the starter boxes, and any one of them are worth it. I just wanted to mention that the ultimate starter box, that would be the way that I would recommend to anybody to get involved in the game, because $700 worth of stuff in a $210 box. I mean, if you're even considering it, just buy the box. Just buy the box. Split it with a friend. I mean, I've been playing for all these years. I split the Leviathan box with my son. He got half of it I bought it, but he got half of it for his birthday. I got half of it for my birthday, which are only 3 days apart. Yeah. So that's about it for me. If anybody's got any questions, I'm not really seeing anything. If you want to follow me, or you want to watch the full version of this, I do record it. We put it on YouTube. That's under Table Ready Painting. Or if you just want to listen to this again, I do run a podcast. It's called Table Ready. You can get that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or pretty much wherever you get podcasts. So I do put a replay on that's going to be on Tuesday nights. So other than that, hey, I want to thank everybody that joined. I want to thank everybody that listened. And again, if you played Space Marine 2 and you want to get onto the table, and been answering the question for 2 weeks now. I didn't even own the game yet or played it yet. And I was already answering questions about how you get it onto the table. So I figured I'd do my research. And like I said, I mean, the starter boxes are deviously underpriced. And don't tell Warhammer that, because I don't really want that get more expensive. But yeah, I mean, just get involved, get everything going. Get some models on the table and have a great time. So I want to thank you for coming. The one thing that I did want to mention on here at the very end, if you do like Star Wars, me and Ken, we do a podcast every so often. I am working on my final notes for that one. It's called Table Ready. Yeah. Sorry, mine's Table Ready Painting. It's called Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken. We are, like I said, I'm finishing up the notes for this episode, and we're going to hopefully get together here and record it, and we'll have it out to you within the next couple weeks. Anybody that is already following us, we trying for monthly. The lore part of it is getting a little excessive. So I think we're going to do, or what I'm going to try to push is do a lore one, and then maybe on the off month do interviews. But that's another thing for another time. So at that, I'm going to leave you and say thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see.